Hello again. I'm just going to see if I can fit everything in that I want to say. The theme of this one is about health and keeping your health both physically and mentally. And it's not as easy as we often like to think. So I started out by, it's funny how things happen. I started listening to these guys because I met an American, and he was listening to the Young Turks, their political analysis and whatnot. And one of the gentlemen that joined the crew was a comedian from Chicago named Jimmy Dore. He was with them for about a year, so I started listening to them. They were at one point the world's biggest news site, which it shocks everyone that hears that, but it was true. And then after about a year, Jimmy ventured out on his own. There was a bit of a break from them. He had a falling out, and so he went out on his own. I've now followed Jimmy Dore for a while, and I've stopped listening to the Young Turks. So anyways, Jimmy Dore, on one of his videos, he had a nice video about spirituality and this, and he talked about Ram Dass. So I started researching it, and as it turns out, they made a little documentary on him called Becoming Nobody. So I watched this yesterday because I didn't know anything about Ram Dass. So I like the video, but I'm not necessarily recommending you go watch it. There wasn't a lot to it, but there was some interesting lines. So I'm glad that I watched it, but I don't know if I'd recommend it to people to watch. The one that I'm going to watch next is called Venerable W. This looks really good. It's a Buddhist monk, and it's some of the things he goes through, so I'm looking forward to watching that. As far as Ram Dass, he was a professor at Harvard, and then he started experimenting with LSD, and then he went to India to try to find his, I don't know how you would describe it, find his self, I guess, maybe. I'm not sure that I really like this guy. He's a bisexual, and he seems like deep down he's got some of his own issues, let's say. But it was interesting to hear his story. I guess he was friends with Timothy Leary, so they both did a lot of experimenting and whatnot. So his message was, don't try to become somebody, try to become nobody. That's the essential message that he had. So I guess I'll leave it there for that. The one that my friend recommended, I wrote it down somewhere. He said the main guy was Ramana Maharshi. He was a Hindu sage, guru if you like, from years and years ago. I read a book on him, and again, I don't know if maybe it wasn't the best book. There was some interesting parts, but not the whole book wasn't great to me. And then the one that I found was pretty good by Eckhart Tolle was The Power of Now, at least the first half. The second half he started talking about women. I wasn't impressed with that, but that is one that I found had some good parts of wisdom, learning to control your anger, learning not to get triggered by others, and living in the present. Don't worry about the past and don't worry about the future. Just live in the now, right? So I like that. And then the books I read one was Salt Wars, about salt. It's the biggest killer in our diet. I think it kills 100 million people a year. You have to eliminate salt from what you're eating. There's already so much of it in the processed foods, or when you're eating out at a restaurant. You have to make a concerted effort to eliminate salt from your food intake or your diet, let's say. It's a poison. Let's not mince words. Sodium and it's a poison. There's no question about that. I also read Sugar Shock. Not a very good book, but it did show that all the things people are drinking and eating are loaded with added sugar. There's no way you can justify it. I had an interesting story with talking to a guy from the UK. He was a traveler like me, and both of us at one point reached a point, for whatever reason, that we didn't have much money, and we both experimented with not eating, or certainly eating less. I happened to want to experiment with intermittent fasting, so I tried not eating. I just ate at dinner, and I didn't have very much, and I found it did wonders for my diet. I lost a lot of weight. I felt stronger. I got all the toxins out of my body. I was just drinking water. Water will do amazing things by curbing your appetite. So I did that for, I think, 2 or 3 months. Very difficult, very hard, but I had the discipline to try it, and it's hard at first, but it gets much easier as you go along. I didn't even think about it. I woke up, got busy with my day, so I loved it. Another book that I recommend is Salt, Sugar, Fat, I believe it's called. I read that years ago. So interesting how they manipulate the food. The same scientists that Joe Biden is touting are the scientists who are manipulating your food so that it hits the bliss point. You get a reaction from the food in your brain, and you think, oh, I need more of that. Campbell's soup, they put so much salt in their soup. It's just criminal what they do to our food. So I'll leave it there. I am going to start doing yoga. I got a book from the library now, and I'm interested to see how and where it'll lead. I used to do yoga when I was young. I got away from it. And then another book that just came out, it's called The 4% Fix. A woman is saying you can find the time to do yoga and help your body, mind, and do all these things in very little time. So all of us can do it. It's just a matter of whether you want to do it. As far as the spiritual, if you haven't seen Wild Wild Country, about he has different names he goes by, but the guy from Oregon, when I was traveling, I bumped into a guy who was reading a book, and he thought this guy was great. Turns out it's the same guy, only has a different name. I think there they call him Osho or something like that. And we got into a discussion. I said, this guy is a fraud. I knew it the minute I saw him. But he's one of the most popular people around the world, at least as far as his books. So you got to be careful who you're reading and what they're saying. Take a little time to make sure you understand what they're saying. But by all means, read it, and then if you like it, do some more research. And then so one of the messages was the cause of suffering comes from the clinging of the mind. So you want to let little things go, right? So the message I have, everyone's thinking that 2020 was a bad year and 2021 will be so much better. My thought is it's going to be worse. So prepare for it and make sure you're not going to get yourself into more trouble. It's going to be bad things are coming, okay? So prepare for it, okay? Bye-bye.